Hey, what's going on, guys? Welcome back to another Fazbear Friday Faz Fest. Freddy Fazbear Five Nights at Freddy's reaction video. That is a huge mouthful, and I'm going to try not to do that every single time. I need to make the title of these FNAF Theory videos a lot better, a lot cleaner. But welcome back to another FNAF Theory reaction. And as you can see on tap for today, talking about the mystery, the truth about Monty from Security Breach, but also Glamrock Bonnie, the mysterious absent character from Security Breach. Now, personally, just background information, when I first saw Bonnie was not going to be in Security Breach, I thought it was going to be another thing like what happened in Sister Location, where it's like, oh, you know, Chica was absent from Sister Location. And we come to find out the reason is because of Chica's Party World, a separate company, a separate establishment that was separate from Fazbear Entertainment at the time when Sister Location, Circus Baby's Pizza World was around. So I thought, hey, they're now doing the same thing with Bonnie, but now there's a ton of mystery about what happened to Bonnie, especially if you deactivate all the wet floor bots, the Pat-Pats, or whatever they're called. People say they call them Pat-Pats. I'm gonna do the same thing. All right, so don't sue me. If you deactivate all the mob bots from FNAF Ruin, you go into a secret room, a secret elevator, and you see decommissioned Glamrock Bonnie. And that's it. Mystery solved right there. You guys want to figure out what the mystery of Glamrock Bonnie was? There you go. He's destroyed and on the floor and deactivated. And that's all we get. That's all we know about him. Fast time, let's get it. Indeed, Dakota, let's get it. Although, as always, Dakota, I'm very curious how you watch these types of videos because you have no idea what's going on in FNAF. So I'm very curious what your perspective is like compared to someone like me. But here we go.
Even in the big 2025, we're still unsure about some key parts of Security Breach, one of the biggest being what happened to Glamrock Bonnie. Plenty of people have made theories and attempts on trying to solve where exactly he disappeared and why. I myself have tried on 2 separate occasions. Recently, there was a Reddit post that had an incredibly strong argument I had not heard before, but suddenly, all of that has been blown out of the water due to a fairly descriptive portfolio post. I'm not kidding. Slices, put on your aprons and let's bake ourselves a theory. So what did we know about Glamrock Bonnie to do all of this theorizing with? Well, in Security Breach itself, the information of Glamrock Bonnie was interesting but admittedly sparse. We had this drawing which seemed to be of Glamrock Bonnie.
Let's see. You got the head, a Bonnie, 2 bunny ears. This is definitely a bunny ear. You can make the argument that's a bunny ear as well, but this 100% on his right ear, that 100% is a bunny ear. Elongated rectangle oval ear, that's 100% Bonnie. Star patterns, which I'll be honest, that's not so special because that's on all the animatronics. Period, end of story. But okay, yeah. I accept that as a Bonnie drawing.
We had Bonnie Bowling, which had a lot of memorabilia about him, but only of an original design of Bonnie, not Glamrock, and we got these very few messages from the duffel bags. The first one, security report, being 12:24 a.m. Bonnie is seen leaving his green room in Rockstar Row heading east toward the atrium. 2:40 a.m. Bonnie enters the East Arcade. 4:12 a.m. Bonnie enters Monty Golf. And we also had Retheme. Management report. The bowling alley needs a retheme. While most of the Bonnie art was removed, kids keep asking, where's Bonnie? Do we have an officially approved response? But luckily, Ruin gave us some more information to work with. One of the first bits of information we get about Bonnie is on this Monty alligator ride, the one that we see Monty enter from in Security Breach proper. Going through it ourselves this time in Ruin, we see that there's this sort of narrative that the Pizzaplex has established, that Bonnie stepped down from Starlight to give Monty his big chance to shine.
Stepped down to give Monty his spotlight. I mean, I guess that's one way to put it. Yeah, sure, he can step down, he can retire, he can take a mental health break. Or also, as many people assume, Monty killed Glamrock Bonnie. Monty is the villain. Monty's the one to destroy Glamrock Bonnie. Because as you saw from the time codes and everything, Monty leaves his, bunker, like Rockstar Row area that all the animatronics have in Security Breach and the Pizza Plets, and then enters Monty Golf for some reason. It's still unknown to this day why they enter Monty Golf at 4 a.m. And then that's it. They enter Monty Golf and they never come out. Wink, wink, nudge theories. What do you think happened? He enters somewhere and he never escapes. He never exits. He never leaves. There's also a few, context clues and design details that even more point to that being the case. First of all, Monty, it's cut dialogue, sure, but in the trailer of Security Breach, there was a lot of cut dialogue that Monty said in the trailer for Security Breach, and it made it seem like he was way more of an antagonistic villain threat. Obviously, that got changed from when they were marketing the game and making the trailer to the game we actually got in December 2021. But it seemed like a common theme, at least the trailer-wise, was painting Monty to be a way more of an antagonistic threat, way more of a villain than what he was in the game that we got. Now, it's cut dialogue, so take that with a grain of salt, but that is something that I will reiterate to you. Also, other things to consider. The game makes it very, very clear that in order to play the bass guitar, which is very weird, but hey, it's a detail they want to call out. It's very oddly specific, and I'm going to share it with you. It makes it very, very clear you need claws to strum the stronger strains of the bass guitar as opposed to the normal guitar. The bass guitar needs claws, which is weird, but that's how Bonnie originally started with claws, and that's how he was able to be the bass player. Monty, as an alligator animatronic, also has claws, meaning he is also equipped to strum the bass guitar strings and be the new bass player. So that's something to also consider. Another thing to consider as well, this is something that was not cut from the trailer, but in the game itself, Monty may not be an antagonistic threat for what the original plan for the game was, but very, very clearly, Monty wants to be the star. Monty wants to be in the spotlight. We know this because it's either in the boss fight of the Monty boss fight in Security Breach, or it's when you're in Monty Golf in Ruin. Chat, you'll have to remind me which one it was. But you're in Monty Golf. I don't know if it's a Security Breach game, base game, or it's the DLC. But you go into the back corner of Monty Golf and you see a dumpster. And beside the dumpster, or inside the dumpster rather, is a decommissioned animatronic figurine of Freddy. That's important. So Freddy, a decommissioned version of Freddy, the animatronic, is sitting laying in a dumpster. And then right beside that, right beside the dumpster, is this stage in Monty Golf, and it's this big 100, 200 foot, hologram projection of Monty performing on stage, being the new star. And meanwhile, Freddy is off on the dumpster to the side and everything, thrown away. Monty is being projected as the new star of the show. So Monty has an ego. Monty wants to be a new star. Monty sees an opportunity to be the new bass player and just casually have Bonnie retire. So he sees an opportunity to be the new star, be the new headline of the show. He takes it. Very similarly with the projection of Freddy as well. So Monty did it.
But obviously that's not what happened, they're fictional characters. Later on, when you collect the Bonnie plushie, Cassie states that Bonnie was her dad's favorite, although he never told her what happened, again implying that something happened here. And finally, the big bit of lore we get, the main bit of lore we get, is that if you turn off every single wet floor bot throughout the game, you gain access to a secret room in Bonnie Bowling, the back corner, behind the lanes, of which you see the destroyed Glamrock Bonnie surrounded by 4 more wet floor bots. Turning all 4 of those wet floorbot signs off, Bonnie's glowing eyes also turn off. It's notable that this version of Glamrock Bonnie not only has a broken bowling ball around his head, but green paint around the claw marks on his chest. He's also on top of a cutout piece of carpet that is not from this area. It is an insane Easter egg that you can find. But all of this in mind, I and many others assumed that Monty killed Bonnie. After all, Monty seems incredibly violent, Monty's claws allow him to play bass guitar, which is what Bonnie would have done before, and after Ruin, we found a destroyed Bonnie with green paint all over his wounds, as if...
There's also another thing I forgot to mention when I was doing that whole rant of Monty being the killer for Bonnie. Another thing that people brought up that I'm going to mention as well is people assume, or people theorize, I don't know if this is still true, but remember when the game came out, people theorized, once again, I don't know if this is true anymore because it's been 4 years, but when the game came out in 2021, the theory was Burn Trap locked down underneath the pizzeria and everything in the birthing pod chamber was originally a Bonnie, Glamrock Bonnie animatronic that was turned into Burn Trap. Pieces of Bonnie went into Burn Trap. I don't know if that's still canon, because once again, it's been 4 years, but I know that was a popular theory when this game came out. So I'm going to throw that in as well. Because if I don't throw it in, I know someone else is going to do it in the comments. I'm going to be annoyed that I forgot to mention. Damn, how would I forget that?
Rubbed off of Monty while attacking. However, it was technically unclear. We had no confirmation besides the evidence we had. And some people had other interpretations. One of my favorites was made by Bonjonzi on Reddit. Bonjonzi cooked with this theory. I will link the entire Reddit post in my description for your perusal, and I do really think you should check out their full theory. There's a lot of evidence and a lot of argumentation that I don't have time to get into. But the essence of the theory was that Bonnie wasn't just killed by Monty, but instead by these ruined staff bots. The theory proposed that Bonnie was looking into what was going on at the Pizzaplex and stumbled across the pizzeria. But when he got down there, he was cut off and chased back up, fighting his way into the Roxy Raceway garages until he ultimately lost. A linchpin of that theory being the fact that this carpet that's cut out underneath Bonnie in Bonnie Bowling matches the same shape as this cutout of the same kind of carpet in Roxy Raceway.
Ha! Okay. That is 100% the same design in Roxy Raceway. I'm sure you're going to dive into this as well, but I would say my main my main question then, is I have to remember, since it's been a while, is there nightmare stat bots, not the normal stat bots, the in your dreams, nightmare own dark emo version of the stat bots, are they in Roxy Raceway? Because I know they are under Roxy Raceway, and that's how you get to, you know, the burned FNAF's location, burn trap and all that and everything. I know they are under Roxy Raceway, but are they in Roxy Raceway themselves? I don't know if I remember.
Just underneath the tarp to hide the evidence. I liked this theory so much that when I saw it, I just kind of adopted it into my frame of thinking about the games. Exactly the same as what happened with Stormister's theory on what happens to Scrap Trap. I saw no flaws in it, I liked it a lot, and I said, sure, that's what I believe now. But we just got some very interesting information about Glamrock Bonnie and his potential killer in one of the most unlikely places yet.
Unlikely places yet. Okay, I'm pause for the sponsorship and everything. But okay, while we skip the sponsorship, because we're not Spawn, let me think about that for a second before we dive in. What could be an unlikely?
Sponsoring today's video. Well, ain't no rest for the wicked. Recently,
Okay, I'm trying to think. What could be before I play the video? I want to think about this for a second. I want to brainstorm for a second. Because knowing the series, we've had some information, lore drops in some bizarre places. Like, just going off the, top of my brain for a second. Back in the early days in the FNAF 1, FNAF 2, FNAF 3 days, the only reason we know so much information, quote unquote, or at least so much information to talk about, I should say, is because of the early games in the series and us digging into the source code of the games itself, teaser images, trailers, websites, digging into the source code to find out information. Reason we know about 1983 so much wasn't, FNAF 4, with the, TV and everything. It was through the source code. We figured out stuff like Baby, Ennard, Funtime Freddy, Funtime Foxy, Ballora. We found out those names in Sister Location before the game came out. Trying to think of what else there is. The only reason we have a solid theory of what happened between Sister Location and FNAF 6 of going from normal Circus Baby to decommissioned Scrap Baby with the claw grip and rollerblades. Ennard going from Ennard to Molten Freddy, right? The only reason we have a story can figure out what was going on and everything is from diving into the website, diving into source code, and figure out what was going on. So I think that's pretty bizarre. I mean, in this series, I know there was a cookbook that came out like a year or two ago, and I know theorists bought the cookbook because, I wonder if there's going to be some theory or some Easter eggs or some information that we can figure out about the series in a cookbook. The infamous FNAF activity logbook, which is an activity logbook for children, has revealed some insane stuff about the series. We first heard about the name Cassidy of Golden Freddy, the missing children's instead that will go on to become Golden Freddy, the vengeful spirit. We found out about Cassidy from the activity logbook. We believe FNAF 4 was the experiment bunker chamber gas experiment. William Afton trying to test, fear responses on people from the activity logbook. Trying to think of what else. So we've gone to some bizarre corners. Activity logbooks, cookbooks, source codes for websites and teaser images. The series has you do a lot, and you wonder why this series, to keep up with, is confusing. Hence why we started this whole FNAF series of, reacting to theories to give my own thoughts and everything, because not only to keep myself up to date on what's going on and to give my thoughts about what's going on, but to also keep you informed as well, because we're all on this journey together.
Game designer Julia Redden from Steelwool Studios posted her portfolio on her personal website, and with it there's small sections of commentary with the work that she's done thus far for several companies. It's honestly a really impressive portfolio, and I love the format. I might steal that for my own portfolio at some point. But the reason I bring this up is that somehow this too is lore. When talking about the work she did for Five Nights at Freddy's Security Breach Ruin, she brings up the Monty boss fight, and in it she wrote, "After the player braves the water and does a puzzle while in the water, specifically designed to give the player a panic moment,
even though it's not a panic moment because Monty's not a threat in the water at all. So it's very bizarre.
treated to a cinematic where Monty is electrocuted by a neon sign of a character he killed. Players who pay attention to the story can enjoy the irony. So if this is true, Monty definitively killed Bonnie. This is a great time for Step On Up to come out. Now I want to be very clear here. This is not the same thing as a direct confirmation from Scott or anything like that. And we should not go around taking this as gospel because we don't want to get anybody in trouble. We don't know what was approved to say or what was, in the line of thinking of this stuff. But where I think this comes in handy and why I think this is useful is that she is part of the Steelwool team. And by the time of Security Breach Ruin, Scott Cawthon was saying what the story is supposed to be to Steelwool, something he didn't do for Security Breach. So if this is the mindset the team at Steelwool had when making Security Breach Ruin, I think it's fairly safe to say that this is great evidence for the fact that this is what the story is supposed to be. Monty killing Bonnie. So if that's certain, do we just go back to the theories we had 4 years ago, that Monty was a jealous wreck or Vanny was manipulating Monty to kill Bonnie? I don't quite think so, because that's not the only information we got about Monty and Bonnie. Because, 3 months ago, Peak dropped. One of the many things we learned about the lore in Secret of the Mimic is that Fiona Murray actually designed plenty of the Fazbear characters herself before they were Fazbear characters. One of the most important examples for this theory is Montgomery Gator, although granted he looked a lot different back then. But not only did we have this large cardboard cutout version, but there was planned to be this Monty Springlock. So this was an important character designed by Fiona Murray. So I hear you. How does Fiona designing Montgomery Gator affect the modern lore of Five Nights at Freddy's? Well,
I saw something. Did Fiona design those suits that we see in the M2 boss fight? The Monty, Fredbear, the dog one, I can't remember what the name is on the collar. Did Fiona design those suits? Because we know she designed some suits, some animatronics. But also, if I'm not mistaken, in that room, you go up to one of the radio cassettes and you hear an audio tape, and it's talking about how, Edwin, William Afton, Henry are all in this partnership together trying to make these animatronics, and all of a sudden we're 95% of the way done with these animatronic creations, and now all of a sudden they want to change these plans and change the designs and everything. Why can't we do, what we did before, which is just put 14, 15-year-old teenagers in the Springlock suits? So, that to me is a possibility. It's not Fiona designed the animatronics. It could be the core three, Edwin, Henry, and William Afton. Maybe these were designed by those three. Then someone let's just say, Cheek on Rollerblades was designed by Fiona, for instance. You can have your cake and eat it too. You can have it both ways. They can both be right. It's not contradicting or ruining the statement that Fiona designed the animatronics, but it's also not getting rid of the audio tape either. So I would say that's my little counterpoint. Just something to consider.
Important to note that M1's main personality is trained off of Fiona Murray, to the point that later in M1's existence, she assumes that she is the real Fiona, talking about herself as Fiona would. When David dies, she tells Edwin, "You need to bring him back. You did it before." Not saying you need to recreate him as a robot, she sees their creation as literally bringing these people back. So for all intents and purposes, M1 to herself is Fiona.
I think it goes up being said that after Fiona died at Fall, we assumed it'd be Fall Fest, and Edwin put Fiona's consciousness in M1 in the robot and gave them the motherly traits. They wanted to, well, have said motherly traits. So they wanted a child to care after it. And they were thinking about, well, if I have these motherly traits, here's this human child that's not mine and everything. Or I can have my own child, be as a mother would, have a robot child. Hence the theory going around. I'm not saying it's confirmed or anything, but there's a theory going around that Fiona indirectly, maybe directly, something maybe pushed David into the street to get hit by the car and killed so she can have her robot child.
So taking that in mind, consider what's going on if Monty kills Bonnie. That would mean in the security breach Pizzaplex, a Fiona Murray designed character destroyed the character that is most closely tied to William Afton, Bonnie. Imagine that narrative mixed in with what Mimic Custody is suggesting about what M1 is doing right now. I've been going on and on about the climax of the current plot of Five Nights at Freddy's for the past several videos. It boils down to Mimic Custody, this somewhat joking theory name I came up with. The idea being that by the time of the Pizzaplex, there are three warring factions, if you will. The faction led by Glitchtrap himself, the guy we meet in Help Wanted, who's been in every game since. Glitchtrap, I believe, is sort of an M3, or a new iteration of the Mimic program that's been trained on William Afton specifically, trying to recreate him like M1 tried to recreate Fiona. His current goal is to materialize in the real world, and to do so he needs a body. I think the Mimic endoskeleton in the basement of the pizzeria is his current target, but he needs to find a way to wipe M2 from the Mimic so there's an open spot for him to enter his own code into. The second warring faction is Fiona, or M1. Her goal is the same as it was in Secret of the Mimic. She just wants M2 to be David again. She wants to fix M2 by resetting him back to his initial training. And then there's M2 itself, which seems to be a third party in this situation, who doesn't want to be made into Glitchtrap, but similarly doesn't want to be reset into David. M2, by all intents and purposes, seems to want to continue being M2, this amalgamation of everything it's known thus far. But until after Ruin, M2's motivations don't really matter, because M2 is locked in a basement. Right now we have to just consider that M1 and Glitchtrap are at odds in the Pizzaplex. So if these two digital entities are vying over control of the Pizzaplex and M2's body, how would that fight materialize? Well, I think it makes a lot of sense that taking over one of the animatronics is one of the strongest, most aggressive, foremost strategies for besting the other faction. So taking that into consideration, Monty definitively...
I will say, it definitely is another piece of the puzzle. Because this series has been going on for 10, 11 years at this point. And not to dwell on the details, but, well, it's a bad video, so what do you think I'm going to do? This is not the first time that William Afton or some person, some figure mimicking, imitating in the likeness of William Afton, the villain of the series. He goes, and there's another force, another person that's right there with him to combat him. Right? At one point, it was William Afton's former business partner, Henry, and we believe that's the whole point in FNAF 6. Henry's the one who made the pizzeria simulator, made the bunker. He was hand unit. He was the one telling us, the player, Michael Afton, to lure all the animatronics, including Scrap Trap, William Afton, into the pizzeria, lure them all to one place, and burn it all down. Right? Henry is going after his former business partner. We believed Michael Afton, the son, is also going toe-to-toe with William Afton, because Michael Afton wants to figure out, oh, why can't I die? Why am I not human? I should be dead. What's going on? And everything. And it's him going location to location, undoing his father's sins that kill kids, burning each pizzeria down, and going location, trying to track down his father, see what's going on, why am I not dying, why am I not human, what is going on here. Then we have Charlie Charlotte, the puppet. Afton is obviously symbolized by the color purple, right? Like Monty here. And then Charlie Charlotte is symbolized by the color green, because in the puppet minigame from FNAF 6, the child had the green wristband. The puppet was trained to keep the child safe with the green wristband. And obviously, the child with the green wristband is the one locked outside the pizzeria, gets killed by William Afton. That's when the puppet goes outside in the rain, infuses the puppet animatronic with Charlie Charlotte's dead body, fuse together the soul, something comes together, and that's how the puppet gets born. Right. And then you have something like Security Breach, where William Afton is down underneath the Pizzaplex, and then you have a lot of imagery of the puppet. We talked about last week the Night Marion puppet plushies all over the Pizzaplex. In the arcade section where there's El Chips, the Mexican restaurant, there's a tangle of wires on the ceiling that has a black and white pattern that is the same black and white stripe pattern as the puppet's arms and legs, leading people to believe that the Security Breach Pizzaplex is under some poltergeist infected by Charlotte Charlotte. Another example, I know it's crazy, but like I said, this series has a lot of people going toe-to-toe with William Afton, is Cassidy, the vengeful spirit. The whole point of Ultimate Custom Night is we play as William Afton. We are in hell. We are in purgatory. We are getting punished for our misdeeds of killing kids. And no matter, since it's a punishment, no matter how many times we die on 50-20 mode, because it's so ridiculously hard, we cannot die. We cannot end our suffering, because someone is keeping us there to continue this ongoing punishment, endless torment. We cannot die. We cannot leave no matter what. That's where you get the lines of, I will keep you here, and, we will not release you. Right. Those like secret lines from the Mediocre Melodies. So you have Cassie, the vengeful spirit. It's another one. So now you have Fiona here. Another character, another horse in the race. Another person who's going toe-to-toe against William Afton. It's very interesting. I just want to call that out.
Killing Bonnie into consideration, and the fact that Fiona designed Monty, and Bonnie is William Afton's baby, I think I see a narrative starting to form. M1 was scrambling for a way to attempt to quash Glitchtrap's control of the Pizzaplex. She was already seeding information to Princess Quest, but she needed something now. Something to protect the people on the ground. What better than one of the primary animatronics? The strongest one of her own creations, Montgomery Gator. So she attempted to take over control of the animatronic, but Glitchtrap was still in his system, so the takeover made him generally unstable. Fiona was able to get the reins to some extent, but Monty was violent and would lash out to everything around it. Glitchtrap, sensing that this was an issue, sent Bonnie over to go deal with it, Bonnie being his go-to animatronic for his fondness for the character. So he has Bonnie leave the green room and look for where Montgomery Gator could be, until ending up at Monty's Gator Golf, obviously. But by the time Bonnie gets there, Montgomery Gator is still battling the world around him for control, and in the fight, Glamrock Bonnie is destroyed. This is one of Glitchtrap's favorite pawns now gone, but M1 can't celebrate the victory. She doesn't want to lose her foothold. If the staff discovers that Monty destroyed in another animatronic, he would be deactivated for safekeeping for now. She needs to keep Montgomery Gator active. As violent as he is, he's her only foothold as of now. So after the dust settled, she has Monty drag Bonnie through the tunnels secretly into Bonnie Bowling and hide his body away, not to be found. So now Monty is somewhat under M1's control and is still safe. This was an okay first attempt, but M1 learned that Glitchtrap is too powerful to just overwrite. She can't control an animatronic he's already got his fingers inside of. There needs to be an opening to fill, which is why for Roxanne Wolf, her other creation, she waits until Glitchtrap is being held at bay by Mexus. And once Roxy is open, M1 steps in to help Cassie in any way she can to try to stop the other mimic variants. How incredibly notable that the two animatronics that are actively fighting against Glitchtrap that have no explanation as to why are two characters designed by Fiona Murray. Chica is off doing Chica things, and Freddy got brainwiped at the beginning of Security Breach, but his body is still fighting for Glitchtrap by the time of Ruin. It's only Montgomery Gator and
Freddy, yes and no, because in the beginning of Security Breach, he's booted in safe mode. That's why Freddy is the one animatronic throughout the game who doesn't attack us. Because he's booted in safe mode, so he's not connected to the AR network like the other animatronics are.
Roxanne Wolf, who ever actively impede Glitchtrap, the two characters that Fiona herself designed. So, we were kinda right about Bonnie, but kinda wrong. The idea that Monty killed Bonnie seems to be more definitive than ever, but I think the current most likely motivation is M1 clawing her way to taking back control of the Pizzaplex again. But at this point, we'll probably continue having to wait and see for new releases. What do you think? Am I way off base? Do you still prefer the Bonchanzi explanation? I'd love to hear your thoughts.
It's just a theory. Now let me put my thoughts together as I'm wrapping up the FNAF video. Trying to think. If that... Now, once again, it's all a theory at the end of the day. I'm not saying this is gospel. I'm not saying it's true and everything. Like, oh my god, I'm now going to take this video as the truth and everything, and you know, from every future video on and everything I'm talking about, I'm going to be referencing this video. This is what happened with Monty. This is what happened. And this is how the timeline's going to go from 2026, 2027, 28, 28. Who knows until how long FNAF goes. No. It's all theories at the end of the day. But I think that is definitely interesting. Of M1 Fiona using Monty as like their Trojan horse to get control of the Pizzaplex, get control of the Mimic M2, and fighting William Afton. I think that's very interesting. Just trying to put all my thoughts together. That's why I saw it, just trying to put my thoughts together. Just trying to think. Because if that's the case, then my questions are, I mean, I can't really use that because one of my counterpoints was, you know, in the cut dialogue in the trailer for Security Breach, not like I brought up earlier of how it seemed like Monty was going to be more of an antagonistic, more of a threat, more of a villain in the series than what we got in Security Breach. Just go back and, you know, rewatch the trailer, you know, listen for the Monty lines. And they made it seem like they marketed it in a way that seemed like William Afton, Burn Trap, and Monty were like working in cahoots with each other. Where William Afton went, Monty quickly followed. Those are the two villains of the game and everything. Now, obviously, that was cut dialogue, and obviously that's not the game we got and everything. But at one point, that was the direction they were going in, which I think is interesting. Um, I would say another question I have is just going off of everything I know and remember about Monty from both Security Breach and Ruin. Because we know Rotzi was the last animatronic to be commissioned at the end of Ruin. And they were green because they were a force of good and they were no longer connected to the Mimic Glitch Trap AR network. They were no longer aggressive. Right? But stuff like that didn't happen with Monty, though. We never decommissioned, we never took him off the network. So why would he be the Trojan horse then? Why would Monty have so much of an ego where he wants to be the star and everything, where he's once again shoving Freddy in the dumps and everything off to the stage and everything? And at one point, we interpreted that Freddy at least had the ghost or spirit of Michael Afton. So is that a way of saying that Monty connected to Fiona? Edwin is throwing away the trash, getting rid of all the Aftons because Edwin, one of Edwin's audio tapes in Secret the Mimic, talks about how don't trust Phasma Entertainment, don't trust Afton. You know, Dad was right, don't trust them and everything. So now they're just getting rid of all the Aftons. I don't know. It's interesting. But let me know your thoughts. Let me know what you think about it, if you agree or disagree with the theory. And this is the ultimate fate. This is what happened to Glamrock Bonnie. Monty is guilty. Not only that, but I'm even more curious to know what you think about what this means for the series going forward with Secret the Mimic on, where Monty is like a Trojan horse and he used as a Trojan horse is used as a means to an end for Fiona to have their goal, which is to get to M2 before William Afton, Glitch Trap M3 can. Let me know. And also, with Glitch Trap and everything, that also has a lot of questions about the relationship with Monty and Vanny, Vanessa, the security guard, right? So, very interesting stuff.